Is it on?
I think so. Anybody want to confirm streaming?
I can confirm Twitter.
X Twitter, Streaming.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, we're streaming. Facebook, Franklin.
I don't see Frank.
Does Frank hear us? Oh, he's connecting to audio. I will check Facebook, but we need to get Frank's connection up.
Yep, it's Facebook is streaming as well.
Okay, thank you, Brenton.
But is Frank streaming? I don't think so.
Frank,
He's there.
oh, man. Frank, audio.
He
Can't
took a
hear you.
nap.
There we go. He was taking a cat nap. Frank, can you hear us?
I can.
All
Can
right.
you hear me?
Looking
Yeah.
good, Frank. You look like you've just come back from church, having had a shower and done your hair beforehand.
Close.
And perhaps he has.
You did your
Well-
forehead? Is that what he just said?
Yes, I did my forehead. I waxed it. Yeah.
That's good. That gets all the hair off.
Boom. Oh, there you go. Nice big wide
Right.
screen. Maybe
Very
I'll
nice. Very nice to see you fine gentlemen today.
add a little
Nice
light.
to see you.
Oh, what the hell happened? Fucking lights.
So we're streaming. We're about to start the Gillmor gang. If anyone can see this. Perhaps you're getting notifications. Perhaps you're
Funny enough, didn't get any notifications, but it's live.
odd. And hello.
Not a good thing.
When did we stop saying we're live in Technicolor? I used to like that.
Technicolor. All right. Ready to start the show?
I don't think so. We have no indication that we're actually on the air.
Yeah.
Oh, well, are you screaming?
They're
Is-
streaming. We're streaming on
have to
LinkedIn
start
and
by all
Facebook.
of our
But
everything.
as Brent points out, we've gotten no
We didn't
notifications.
get notifications, but we are.
Anywhere.
I got notifications.
Okay.
And we're streaming. I see it. I just didn't
Yeah.
get any notification.
Yeah.
Well, then you know what? This has been a big brouhaha about nada.
Okay.
What
I
else is
think
new?
we're ready to start.
You
Okay,
just need
things are
to
in new-
make sure you're streaming and then say mute is off and
Yeah,
start it.
I got that. Okay.
Hold on. I'm just getting ready. I'm getting ready to forward my Facebook.
All right. I'll do
Forward
that.
your Facebook.
All right. So mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Joining us from the state of the British Isles is Frank Radis. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Hello, gang. Tina, the rest of yous. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day here in London town. We have no indicted individuals in the government at this point that at least are well known. We just went through an election. I hope it's a little bit forward thinking for the rest of the world, but I doubt it. That was a London election. Other than that, hola, gangsters.
all right.
From the state of confusion, otherwise known as Georgia, is the fabulous Brent Leary.
How can you be from the state of confusion and fabulous all at the same time?
Well, you
I
are
am.
fabulous.
Elvis was.
Okay. I'm in the same company as Elvis. I'll take that.
Clearly.
Elvis is my birthday partner.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, several years apart, though. Or decades.
Yes, but the same date. Elvis and Bowie.
I have
Wow.
Aretha Franklin. She was born on my birthday.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I got no one. I got no one.
Frank, you have someone, you just don't know.
And there is that. I think I looked it up once. I might have someone like a minor B player kind of thing. If it's not an A-list, A plus,
It ain't no Elvis and Bowie.
it ain't no Elvis and Bowie.
That's a
You
pretty
got-
good combo.
You got
Wow.
8 billion people on the planet and 365 days. Do the math.
I got
Do I
you.
have to?
I don't need to do the math. I can
Is that what
see
they
it.
do in the framework? Is that how that works?
Well,
The
you
framework
that's
of,
what we do here in the framework.
of Massachusetts is Dennis Pombriant.
Well, greetings, salutations, and otherwise, how you doing, guys and gals? You know what?
Pretty.
You probably want to wait on this, but I just saw a headline 5 minutes ago. Helicopter carrying Iran's president crashes, according to state media.
And I actually have some input from a relative in Tehran.
We will get to that in a minute. Let's
Yeah.
introduce Keith.
From the state of Keith is Keith Tier.
Well, since my baby left
Oh
me,
no.
I found a new
Now, that's
place
definitely
to
the state of
dwell.
tier.
It's at the end of Lonely Street.
Anybody got a mute?
Heartbreak Hotel. I'm feeling so lonely,
Yeah,
baby.
we know why.
I
interplay between the two.
You know, your Elvis reference just got me, and I couldn't resist.
You know, Keith, you're just reminding me of a couple of dinner parties where we got up and danced. So that's good.
I thought you were going to say get up and left, but that's
No, Keith and I were dancing. It was
You
fun.
know, my wife will turn any event into a dance party if she's allowed to.
Wow, she sounds like a ball of fire.
great ball of fire.
And rounding out the gang
Oh, rounding out.
is our producer director and annoyer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Tina Chase Gillmor.
Should we clap for that? I don't know.
Everybody.
Are we supposed to clap for that annoyer? I can't
No.
do that.
It's a tough one. You're going to have to figure that out.
Steve,
Yeah, you're
I
gonna have
thought
to
he
figure out
said
where you're
Sonora.
tonight, buddy.
You know, if Brent is the state of confusion, Steve is always the state of annoyance, right? So it's a very low bar to be the annoyance.
He'll pay for it later.
Yes, we're sure. That's
I'll
why
clap for
nobody's
that.
arguing.
I'm
you know?
clapping
No
for
dinner for Steve.
that.
There you go, Steve.
Okay. So next,
Okay,
You're on. I'll tell you about it.
go ahead.
let's do that.
So there was a report early this afternoon that a helicopter containing the president of Iran, who is not as hardcore as the Ayatollah, yet he is still in charge of the Islamic Republic. That he was on the plane. The immediate reaction was twofold. One was, "Oh my God, that's fantastic! They got the guy." And as was pointed out by many, including me, yeah, but the guy is really the supreme leader in Tehran. Who knows? It could have been him. It could have been an accident. It could have been him, or it could have been, I don't know, the Israelis. Although I think they're a little busy. So there were different opinions going on, and in Iran, the opinion of a person living in Tehran was that aircraft carrying Iranian president crashes. State media says, so the state media had been going down the government line, which is they don't know who was they couldn't tell you who was on the helicopter front. In essence, they were denying it without really denying it for the first 3 or 4 hours. I said eventually I thought it would come out, but that I didn't think it would be this fast. And Brent just put up a headline that said that at least says there was a crash and the president was Iranian president crashes. So aircraft carrying the president crashes. So that probably means he's dead.
It called it a hard landing as opposed to a crash, which was interesting.
A hard landing.
A hard landing could imply that he was okay. But that wouldn't surprise me, even if he were dead. So I guess, I think we will find out at some point. But my immediate sense is go to the lie. That's exactly what they're telling right now.
But you're right, he's not the guy. So one would hope this is an accident. If it's a state assassination, I'd be appalled
and shocked.
No, I just think it's just not. I mean, the minute you cross that line, all bets are off. Anyone can do it, right? And it's not terrorism anymore. It's like fair game.
Yeah, I agree. But it wouldn't shock me. Honestly, though, in today's environment, very little would shock me. Even state assassination. It doesn't shock me. Wow. 30. How about the 30 years they gave the guy that hit Pelosi on the head with a hammer? I mean, there you go. Yeah. That's it. I got nothing else. That was my addition to that story, which I think is an interesting story. And but my sense is it won't change the global perspective.
Well, the big global news of the week, I think, although it's probably not a topic for us to get deep into, is Biden putting 100% tariffs on Chinese electric cars.
I didn't get that.
I hear you.
Underneath the surface of that decision is a lot of stuff, which, from many different points of view. But I wasn't surprised, because we're living at a time when that's consistent with the mood and the trend. At the same time, I think it's totally dumb.
Yeah.
Why?
Dennis, you were going to say that it was.
I'd like to hear why.
I think it's dumb because the Chinese EVs, including Tesla, are among the best in the world. They're produced cheaply. They're high luxury, very good vehicles. And American consumers will probably want to buy them. And, they'll pay a lot less for them than they'll pay for a Mercedes. By the way, we already buy foreign EVs. I've got a Mercedes. I've got a Ford made in Mexico. And I've got a Subaru that's Japanese. So it's not as if there is an American EV you can buy. There just isn't. So this is just
what's dumb about it, please?
What's dumb about it is it's an attack on consumers.
No.
And consumers vote.
No.
I
think it's actually smart and a major turning point in American history. 25 years ago, China joined the WTO, and all of a sudden China was the low-cost producer of all kinds of things, and it hollowed out our manufacturing base. We're at a point now where we're taking steps to say, no, that's not okay. And there are other electric car producers that aren't China, even American car companies. And that's a growing market. Any inconvenience to the American consumer will be short-lived. And I think overall it's pointing towards a different approach to China by this administration and probably future administrations. and finally, Biden doesn't care so much about the consumer aspect that you bring up. He's about the global chess game, U.S. v. China. And
but Dennis,
in U.S. v. China, this is a smart move, I think.
So Dennis, just to give some context here, you and I probably are both familiar with the history of the debate around free trade. And if you go back over the whole era that debate has been around, which is a couple hundred years,
right?
Typically, the people that are not in favor of free trade are known collectively as the losers. The winners are never for restrictions. They're always for open trade because they're winners. So this is signaling a very negative signal about the United States, but more or less it's saying we can't compete in EVs unless we put unreasonable tariffs on them.
I think the
that's not what I see.
legalists wouldn't. The legalists would think that this was a. They would at least I think the legalists in China would see this as a sort of a sticking point.
What you're really looking at here, which is different from, say, importing cinnamon 200 years ago, is that because of wage arbitrage, places like China are able to sell product at a greatly reduced price over American products. And what it enables them to do is subdue their population. They should be producing for their domestic market. Instead, they're subduing their population, and China really should be inventing things but instead they buy the highest technology from outside, because if they did it inside, they'd have to liberalize their society, and they don't want to liberalize their society.
Yeah,
China's
but you
that
have to.
sounds like corruption to me.
I want to fact check you, Dennis, on that. I mean,
Go ahead.
the Chinese domestic market for cars is now the biggest in the world, and it used to be tiny. The middle class in China is buying cars at a steady clip. There's 139 different EV brands in China, compared to one in the US, and so the fact is they're being super successful in their domestic economy, despite the challenges we all know about in terms of China post-COVID. And China everyone hoped China would be, the engine that would lead the growth of world trade, and that is now challenged due to challenges in China. But in terms of their domestic economy, I mean, it is quite remarkable what they've achieved.
Well, it's quite remarkable in the last literally few years, because China over the longer term has been exporting. They've been almost a feudalistic society, at least you go back 10, 20 years, a mercantile economy. So what you're talking about is something that's fairly recent,
I
but
agree.
old habits die hard. If you can make a $10,000 electric car, you are giving it away.
Yeah, but they can't do that. I mean, the correct criticism is that there's been state subsidies on by the Chinese state on the EV companies that leads them to be able. It really isn't the low wages, because Chinese wages are roughly 75% of US wages now in high tech, but it's more to do with state subsidies. But then we also subsidize Tesla actually not enough. The biggest critic
To get going, yes.
To get going, and
To get
we
going, they get
massively
$500 million
subsidize
from the Obama
One
administration.
at a time, please. Let people talk.
and we massively subsidize the non-EV companies since the crisis in 2008. So it's like for like in a way. So anyway, my point is, if you go to the UK, you see these Chinese EVs, which are, I'll say again, really good. You see them all over Europe. That doesn't really dent Audi, BMW, and Mercedes, because they're actually really good, so they can compete. But there's no British EV that can compete. Maybe the Jaguar. It doesn't really sell very many.
Aston Martin.
Yes, niche elite.
MG's got one. I'd buy an MG.
And here in the US, we've got Tesla, and GM and Ford are beginning to play, but they're really underwhelming vehicles. So I think it's a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. If you think that it's possible to win a war with China through trade, then possibly it's okay. I'm not against supporting American industry or unions, but I think it's a losing fight. I don't think you can win that fight without damaging yourself.
So back when Mr. Tariff himself was the POTUS, there was a lot of discussion about how actually tariffs were paid by the consumer or by the Americans. You put a tariff on something in Argentina or in Iran, And the people that end up, or China, people that end up getting hurt ultimately are us. What do you think of that?
That's only true if there's no competitive product in the domestic market. If you're importing the only game in town, then yeah, the consumer is paying. But what the tariff is designed to do is to put a floor under the price of the product so that there's more equal competition between the import and the domestic.
I think in this case, because it's 100%, it goes further. There will be no Chinese EVs in the US, period.
I don't know. I don't think you can look at the percentage. I mean, if we're talking about a $10,000 car that's goosed up to 20,000, and a Tesla is still 50,000.
No, these cars, I don't know which cars you're looking at, actually. So maybe there are some that are like you're describing, but the ones that I look at, which is like BYD, Xiaomi, Li, Neo, they're also $30,000 to $40,000. So they'd be now $60,000 to $80,000. And they're luxury cars. They're better than the equivalent Tesla, with longer batteries, more luxury makeup. They're just good. They're just good. They're
Okay.
like Korean cars. Korean cars, used to be looked down on. Now Kia and Hyundai are really good cars.
They're really good cars. They're stylish.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Mark
Moving on.
Andreessen did a video this week about the rebirth of American manufacturing with Ben Horowitz. I don't
Is
know.
that moving on?
Well,
Yeah, it's
it's
actually
not to do
a
with
point
cars.
you made
It's
there.
to do with one possible in the history of free trade. The only winners from tariffs have been emerging economies like Korea and Japan. They actually benefited from tariffs because they grew their domestic industries. And Andreessen went on this week and said that the latest developments in AI give America a chance to robotize production and leapfrog current technology, which I thought was an interesting perspective.
Keith, you forgot America when you talk about tariffs, because the 19th century American manufacturing was all about tariffs and keeping out cheap British goods, especially textiles.
Yeah, almost any emerging economy can benefit from that.
Right, that's the emerging economy playbook.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, is China still an emerging economy, or why are they selling their cars so cheap?
Well, yeah.
Oh, can I just say one other thing? When you hollow out manufacturing, the thing that very few of us think about is who's going to manufacture tanks and airplanes and bombs. And we've gotten to a point where not everything we need is manufactured in the United States. Don't look to your allies in Britain or Germany or any place else to take up the lion's share of that effort.
Yeah. Military spending on innovation is massively rising in the US, massively rising.
Mm.
Lots of startups are now considered to be in the military sector.
So is that moving on?
Well,
what do you got? What do
it
you want to
depends
talk
how
about,
big a
Steve?
leap you want to make. We could leap to, is Donald Trump going to be found guilty? Which is, I'm guessing we all want to talk about.
He will be.
Is that going to
He'll be
make a
found.
difference in the election? No.
No. I just think the interesting thing is what are they going to do for the incarceration part of the sentence, which probably isn't going to happen. Does that mean ankle bracelet at Mar-a-Lago, or does that mean he gets to live in New York?
I'm good with that. What's the point? Is it
nothing? I just think
that that's democracy.
It won't matter.
I agree. So it's not the end of democracy?
Well,
yes.
Will it help the election?
Well,
no, it's not the end of democracy yet. I don't think.
Well, what
Well,
has to happen in order for this to be called the end or the death of democracy?
Well, the Supreme Court has to rule on immunity first,
That's
or
just
send it back.
that's the way that it seems to be going in terms of the Supreme Court.
So
there
that
could
would
be limits
that would
The amount of
inform.
immunity that it can occur. That
So
doesn't
that would inform trials, and then the second thing that would have to happen is that the judge in Florida would
What
have to
trial?
be.
What trials? Trials that won't happen because Trump has won.
That's true.
Okay.
You're right. Never mind then.
Okay. So
but if you put together that trial with Judge Alito's upside down flag, which was also a big discussion point this week,
That was his wife.
it was his wife, it was Mrs. Not even his wife, Mrs.
Blame it on the
Alito,
wife.
Mrs. Alito, who doesn't have a first name clearly. And
Doesn't know how to
anyway,
fly a
if you
flag
put those
either.
two together, it is the case that when the legal system starts to get politicized, as it always is in corrupt countries, one thinks of places like Nigeria,
Or Hungary.
or Pakistan.
Or
United
Poland.
States. So your point?
Well, democracy is being undermined. I don't know if it's in threat, but it's certainly undermined the more the political layer is trying to control the independence of the legal.
Yeah, that's an arguing debate point by the right wing, where you
But I mean, abstractly, they're right about that. That is real.
This is why I stopped. By the way, Dennis.
I'm not saying I support them. I'm just saying it is a fact that the separation of powers between the political, which is divided into the legislation and the executive, and the judiciary is an essential part of democracy.
Well, I mean,
Not
that's
the
a
separation,
debating
it's the
point.
checks and balances that matter.
That's right. And more to the point, this is a debating point on the right that you are ascribing.
But why is that? Why does that sounds like an accusation? I mean, it's okay, isn't it, to discuss debating points that come from the right?
I didn't say that. I just said that's my opinion is that this is a debating point from the right. The idea
Ipso facto what?
the idea of this point is to say, hey, we really shouldn't screw with this because it's going to turn out bad for everybody.
No,
And
I think
that's a fact. I don't
so.
think
I
it's
don't
a
agree
fact.
with them.
It's just
I
an
think
opinion.
I don't agree with them. I think Trump has to face the consequences of his actions. So I don't agree with that. But I do think that the rhetoric that surrounds it is really important to not create an expectation or an acceptance that the political sphere can override legal rights.
It feels like it has, and it also feels like everyone's getting swept up in it.
And I'm talking about on all sides, by the way. I mean, if in a way, that's what Trump was trying.
Let's
when
not
Trump-
shift to a broader discussion before we've understood what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would just say one thing. Trump, when he tried to say the election wasn't fair, was doing the same thing. He was trying to use the
What?
political layer.
Well, I mean, on some level, aren't all elections unfair?
How?
How? Depends what you mean by unfair.
Well, first of all,
No.
a lot of people think that the Electoral College is unfair. Do you think that?
I do actually, yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
I don't.
I think it's unfair based on the numbers that a certain population gets that is not correlated to the underlying population size.
I think if you're trying to establish the notion of rule of law, that the Electoral College may be an imperfect element of that solution.
Yeah, if I was redoing the Constitution, I wouldn't have it.
Right, right, but the Electoral College is the rule book that we all play under. We don't have to like it,
Yeah.
but the fact that we know what the rules are going in means that it is by definition not unfair.
Yeah, I agree with that. But by the same token, if there was a constitutional assembly to consider a 21st century America, I think it would look quite different to the current constitution.
Yeah, or the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we think about the election? This is a poll, and I have the right as the Gillmor or one of the Gillmors of the Gillmor gang to call this poll. So
Call it, baby.
election day, right now, who's going to win?
Biden.
That makes you the essential Gillmor, doesn't it?
No, I'm just a random
Gillmor. A
civilian
random Gilmor. Just a
trying
random
desperately
Oh,
Gilmor.
yeah,
to
you are
understand.
launching the question though, and you are
Yeah, that's
uncontestable.
correct. I have
Therefore,
I
you
like-
are the
I like-
essential Gillmor.
I like that framing because it means Tina has a veto.
I got a veto. He lives in New
I
Jersey.
haven't heard any answers first before we get to the power center.
Biden.
Okay.
Biden.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's one vote for yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I'm just
Brent,
agreeing with those two. They said Biden. I said, yeah.
no.
Well, in the history
Think, or is that what you're saying for now?
in the history of this poll, my history is the first time it was asked, I said Trump. The second time after the State of the Union address, I said Biden. And sadly, I'm now going back to Trump.
Yeah, I don't recognize the deviation from the Trump vote. Okay, so is there anybody here? Tina, you say Biden?
Biden, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that I think that Biden is losing some votes. I think that Trump is, and I'm comparing this to the last time that that we had an election, right? I think that Trump is losing votes. I think that Trump is also losing some support and thus votes. And I think that in the end, after we see what I think the campaign will put on, the Biden campaign will put on a very robust marketing for their candidate, and that will be Trump is no good for this country, and we've seen it, and it's going to be very clear in their advertisements, and what the mouthpieces for the Biden campaign are going to be saying. You know, Biden does have a good amount to stand on, and Trump has a lot of crappy things that happened or didn't happen during his presidency, and I think they will zero in on it in very effective ways.
He also has rampant dementia.
Yeah, but
Okay, well, I'll move off of that
that
one.
may be true of a lot of people.
And that doesn't apparently that doesn't keep anybody from running for office.
No, I think there's still a group of people that are in denial, thinking that there's still an opportunity for somebody else to jump in. Once that gets crushed, once their dreams of a white knight riding in get crushed, it'll go back to either you're for Trump or you're against Trump. I'm just kind of being realistic.
Yeah.
I think there's more people that are anti-Trump than are pro-Biden. I think that the people that are for Trump are definitely for Trump. I think once these delusions of grandeur that, the dude out of California or somebody else is going to come in and save the day, once they finally wake up from that dream state, They're gonna coalesce. Weren't we talking about this like 4 years ago? I mean, it just feels like
Yeah, no, that's
it's the
well,
same thing here.
that's a good theory. How about the opposite theory, which is when people wake up and realize that Trump's going to win?
I hope people do wake up and think that, because then that will force the folks who are really against it to actually, come out of that ridiculous state they're in and vote.
Then what do they do? Oh, you mean this is going to
Vote against Trump.
the young people are going to come out? Why is, in your opinion,
Mhm.
is the a lot of the coverage right now suggesting that Biden is losing black support?
Because that makes people talk like this. I remember this happening 4 years ago. There was this strain, black men are going for Trump in numbers. And it went like from 4% to 6%.
I remember when Jim Clyburn changed and basically won the election, that was not the feeling that was coming out of the body politic 4 years ago. The feeling was is that uh, the Democrats were marshaling their native constituencies, and that they just, from a numbers perspective, they were going to win. That was the whole logic of Biden 4 years ago. Nobody cared, at least not the civilians, about how you could be good in a bipartisan universe, which didn't exist at that point. But there was a good feeling that was emanating from the analysis that you're suggesting. I don't sense that right now.
Yeah, because I still think, you got like what's his Cornell West out there running around. You got a lot of these third party folks running around, and people are still thinking, I'm going to take a principled stance and vote against Trump, but not for Biden. I mean, I don't think that's going to hold up as we get closer and closer, because reality is going to set in. This guy, I don't know if he's going to get found guilty or not, but he's going to say some ridiculous stuff, especially if they do this debate. I mean, this could be the best thing that happens to Biden if they actually do the one-on-one debate with no audience, so you don't get any of the sideshow, the Carnival Barker stuff. Because if Trump says something and he doesn't have his group of people that the automatically clap and yell and holler, he's going to say something stupid, and it's just going to land flat on national TV with millions of people viewing. And he's going to try to pull himself out, and he's going to make it worse. That's like the Biden's dream right there.
Keith, do you agree with that?
I think it's very likely that series of events will happen. I do not think that he'll suffer because of it. I think his the lack of passion for Biden and the absolute passion for Trump on both sides will cancel it out, and it'll be in an electoral sense, it'll be non-event. So then you focus in on somewhere between 3 and 6 states, and you look at the polls there, and there's quite a big lead for Trump in I think 5 out of 6 of them. So I agree also that Trump will lose the popular vote by millions, but I don't think that will translate into him losing the election.
Well, the popular vote does not select the winner.
Well,
Exactly, that's my point. So I think Brent's accurate saying what will happen, but inaccurate in believing that will lead to the numbers that would be required to change the outcome. I think for that to happen, Biden has to have a popular base that is not just saying he's the best of a bad choice, but actually believes in him. And to believe in him and get enthusiasm, especially amongst young people, he seems to have burned his bridges there.
I think there's a lot of angst. I think Steve vocalized it. And the angst is clouding this election, and here's why. We're in the middle of a fundamental realignment of political parties in this country. from the Civil War until the 60s, blacks were Republicans predominantly. They were the party of Lincoln. One of the big reasons was that Southern Democrats were the racists. We saw a giant flip with the Civil Rights Act of 1965. I think we also saw a less large realignment with Ronald Reagan when working class Catholic white people started voting for Republicans, started voting for Reagan. We're at a point right now where, yeah, Tina's right. We're seeing the Democrats hemorrhage some votes. What we're not covering is the Republicans that are just throwing up their hands and saying, I don't want any more of this. And if you look at the primaries, since Nikki Haley dropped out, and Nikki Haley is still polling 20% of the Republican Party, that tells me that that's a transition state of the realignment.
Well, maybe, but maybe not this year.
Well, what it does say is that there is some great dissatisfaction in the Republican Party. I mean, if I was a Republican, I would be horrified by what's going on. It has turned into an unrecognizable entity.
Well, I disagree with that. I think it's
not a political party.
recognizable. I think that the Trump era is wholly a Republican Party production.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see this. I mean, you see David Jolly, and you see some of the MSNBC hosts, and and that's a political wave. I don't think so. I mean, has anybody read Ezra Klein's post this weekend?
No.
Well, it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, I saw it. It scares me. I don't want to read it.
What is it? I'd love to know. I'm not going to read it, but what is he talking about?
He's basically saying that for 7 or 8 reasons, Biden's going to lose.
7 theories for why Biden is losing and what he should do about it. Everybody's got.
Nobody said nothing in that article says what we should do about it.
Is it in
That's
the
the
New York,
headline.
is it in the Times, Steve?
As we
It's
know,
in the Times.
headline writers and journalists and podcasters are distinct, different groups. So the headline may say it, but that doesn't mean it has anything to do with what is said in the article.
Okay, well, I didn't read the article. I just read the headline. Frank, you're on mute.
But you're making several great points.
Except when real journalists oversee the people who write the headlines. So that changes. And I think the New York Times is falling into a deep ravine and better start pulling itself out before people stop. I don't want to say stop reading it or engaging with it because the numbers keep going up. Why is that?
Frank,
The only media outlet with an actual business plan.
My observation on the Times is the other way. I thought they'd lost their way about a year ago. And recently, I think the editorial layer is now back in control of the newsroom. And they're actually, not becoming the kind of newsletter of the Democratic Party anymore. They're actually discussing real things that their readership won't like. Because in order to heal, you have to feel the pain, and feeling the pain is what you want the Times. The Times, in a way, should be shining a light on weaknesses on their own side, and that's what they've started to do. I think that's a good thing.
I think
It is uncomfortable.
I think we're reading a different newspaper, my friend, but that's okay.
By the way, I just want to confess that I don't read it, but I read about it. I subscribe to it, and I rarely read it. but I read about it. It's become a topical.
Edward Klein article is in the New York Times.
Yeah,
I shall read it.
Article that has the same underlying attitude. It's also in the New York Times.
I shall read it, but would really wish that everything the New York Times reported or did opinions on came in an Audible. Is there an Audible file on it?
ChatGPT. Just give it a URL and it'll read it to you.
Excellent. I can use Bard. Bard will work.
I've never used Bard, but probably
Well,
Bard's gone, by the way. It's now called
Gemini.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it still comes up on my phone as Bard, but then I click on it, it
Really?
becomes
Wow.
it becomes some other thing. And I keep updating it, but the icon doesn't change.
ChatGPT's gone free. So you can download it for free now, and it's a lot better than the Google one.
I have like 2 pages of GPT stuff that I actually never use.
How can you say that something that does nothing is better than something else that does nothing? Is it doing
Well, it can do nothing better. It does it better.
what is it that ChatGPT does for you both? I know that it's writing code for Keith. Is it producing as Keith's co-host on the Andrew Keen broadcast?
That was the week.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, I cheer Andrew on in his aesthetic perspective about the art that is being generated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, listen, I'm telling
He
you,
hates
that is the reason to do it. I just did a really cool robot cat standing with weapons on a wet street in New York City at night under the Brooklyn Bridge with the rain coming down and a full moon over his shoulder. It was spectacular.
And how
Yeah,
many
I missed
carbon
that.
credits did that account for?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I can use my account for another month, but
Wow. I'm more fascinated by the mind that actually thought that one up.
well, yeah, looking at him,
Yeah,
kid.
you can't make that shit up.
Oh, you can.
I can feel a Japanese anime coming from Frank in the next phase of his career.
I'm Sam Katz.
Okay.
But to answer your question, Steve, what they announced, both of them had announcements this week, and both represented, I'd say, significant progress along the path they were already on, which is this kind of multimodal, as in video, images, text, sound, multimodal interface, where your input can be anything you want, because it can now use the camera on the phone and the microphone on the phone as input. And the outputs are correlated to what you ask for or what you give it. And its ability to act as an expert in any domain is now, consistently at about the 80% level of being good, as in it gets it right.
As compared to human experts, maybe.
Human experts probably are only right way less of the time, because the nature of science is that it's always provisional.
What does ChatGPT think is going to win the election?
I didn't ask it because that would be an opinion. It doesn't have good opinions. It has,
Yeah,
it has the ability.
like many of the people that we know.
I was getting ready to say, how does that differ from even our opinions at this point?
So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went to see the world premiere of the Galileo play in Berkeley at the Berkeley Rep. And I vaguely, I was ignorant. By the way, I didn't even know Galileo was Portuguese. So that's how ignorant I was. I don't know. I somehow put him along with Aristotle. So I think I thought he was Greek, but I didn't really have an opinion. So I discover he's Portuguese. And then I discover his relationship to Copernicus and Aristotle and the Catholic Church. So I asked ChatGPT to give me a summary of how these things relate to each other. And it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And suddenly the play, which, by the way, your heart sinks in the opening because they announce that it's a rock opera. And it really is that bad. It really is a really bad. It's like a Jesus Christ Superstar attempt on Galileo. So it really is bad. But the underlying story is great, and the actors were great. They just had to deal with a bad script. And anyway, ChatGPT helps me understand it. There you go.
What? Are you editorializing about a random gesture of mine? Oh, there you go.
That's the official wax museum image of Galileo.
Yeah. So can you turn that off, that stuff that makes you go, oh shit, this is a fake picture? Can you actually remove that? Is there a command in text
No,
or
not on this.
music that allows you to be able to tweak that to the point where it looks real?
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah, there's all the experts who use, for example, Midjourney is the leading graphic one. It has all these geek subqueries that control, field of view,
Good
depth.
man.
You can make it very super realistic.
I like
Well,
this guy.
I would say that it's overtly and extremely realistic, which is what I'm trying to figure out how to remove.
You'd rather have it look more made up so people know that.
Well, I mean,
it's
look at the
not-
guy's, look at his eyes. He looks crazy there.
He's
Did you say, and make him crazy looking?
he's just staring into our souls. That's all.
Oh, okay.
It's just
Make him look like the Unabomber.
Frank, why don't you go ahead and get started on that one with Galileo and the Mad Bomber and the Mad Cats in New York City running wild.
And with let's see, who would be, it'd be Freddie Mercury singing Galileo, Galileo.
They're all going to the Trump trial tomorrow. That's what it is.
Ice, baby, ice.
We could do a mashup of those two. You go Ice Baby, Ice, Galileo,
No,
Galileo.
that was done by David Bowie. And
Could we spend maybe a minute or two on this ridiculousness that happened on the in the House of Representatives with that ridiculous human being from my state of confusion, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jasmine Crockett? I mean, I don't blame her. I blame, of course, MTG.
Oh my
For
God.
basically starting one of the most ridiculous cat fights on the state House of Representatives floor. It was ridiculous.
well,
Oh,
I
come
know
on.
what-
I'm not the only one that saw this, right?
No,
No, you're right.
tell
You're
us
right.
more though,
No, tell us.
Les.
No. Just we have seen it. You didn't see it.
I don't think I saw it.
Oh, you
Okay.
didn't see? Oh, you'd know if you've seen it. It was quite the spectacle.
Boy, you'd know it. Let's
Which do you
let's,
think is more interesting, the that fight or the parade of red tide?
what is going on? Please,
That's like
somebody-
the reverse Handmaid's Tale or something. I've never seen anything quite like that.
And then
yeah.
it was super ridiculous. I mean, I saw that and I was like, what? These guys are clowns, and
Clown show.
They're clowns for the ultimate clown. That's the thing. They are clowning for the ultimate clown. It's
Okay,
just
so
so
how do
ridiculous.
we think the trial is going? I think that it's going really, really well.
I think he gets
I-
convicted. I do something. I do. I don't. But that's just me.
I think it'll be important if he's convicted, and even more important if it's a hung jury.
I'm getting a potential security.
Ooh, yeah. Hung jury would be really actually kind of luscious because the state would retry and just keep Trump in court over the summer.
What happened, Brent?
No, Keith wants me to show something, but
Okay.
I just put a young Galileo looking crazy in the chat. There's an image there.
let me see if I can work on this.
do you think that would they would schedule something as soon as the summer? I don't know.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if they wouldn't just put it past the election at that point.
Well, I've already I've heard people talk about it, and typically 4 to 6 weeks is about all they take between retrial,
Okay.
trial and retrial, because the prosecution's got its act together, and they want to get this done. They want to get
Well,
it resolved.
you don't think that the defense got its act together yesterday or the day before? I
No,
do.
not at all.
I thought they did a
I
good.
think that was. I think that was. They had to. If there's a god of evening things up a little bit so that it seems like a fair fight, the Republicans got that in that moment.
You
Yeah,
mean when
I
they?
think Todd Blanchard is testifying, he should have been objected, and that I think it would have been sustained.
Do you mean that bit, Steve, where they questioned him about his vindictiveness, that he's driven by vindictiveness? Oh, there's my young Galileo. I'll click on that.
Oh, that's a little crazy looking.
I asked it to
Looks
make
like a
it look
young
crazy.
Christopher Lloyd.
I thought that was canceled. Oh, that was young Sheldon.
That looks like a scared Harry
Looks
Potter.
like David Tennant with a weird wig on.
No, I'm not
Kinda,
talking
yeah.
about the
Doctor what?
Yeah, Dr. What? Dr. What? Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Back to regular schedule.
Clearly, the legal facts are not changed by him being obviously motivated by revenge. But they did show that he's motivated by revenge. But that doesn't really change the legal facts. The question is, to be honest, I still don't know what the question is. What is the legal accusation?
That he
Of what?
that he
Of Trump.
paid
What is Trump accused of that he can be found guilty of?
election interference and
He
illegal
basically was
bookkeeping.
paying her off not to keep quiet about his wife, but to keep quiet because it might hurt his election opportunity.
But that's not the accusation.
And he
No,
paid them.
there's-
He funneled the money for
Yeah,
that
that-
operation through his campaign.
Yeah,
and then called it something that
Yeah.
that was illegal. He couldn't
Right.
say that
He
it
didn't
was
call it a campaign contribution.
Yeah,
so they have
so
to draw
it's-
a direct line between his campaign and that payment. Basically,
That's right. And
No,
no, they don't.
no, not at all. Not at all. He wrote all of the checks out of his personal account.
not all.
It's not the campaign paying it. It's Trump interfering with the election by silencing
No, you're right. Yeah,
the witness.
you're right. And there's been plenty of receipts, paperwork, signed
Lots of
checks,
receipts. So,
lots of real
the,
documentation.
the real question is there are like 33 or 34
Counts.
allegations, and they're all civil. They're all civil. If you can tie those wrongdoings with trying to influence an election, all of a sudden becomes a felony. So I would look for rulings or jury, whatever you want to call it, in pairs.
Yeah, it's not all going to come back.
ChatGPT says the accusation is falsifying business records.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the only accusation, according to it.
Yeah, no. Falsifying a business record in the furtherance of interfering with an election.
Exactly.
Wrong thing.
Yeah, so it says falsifying recorded legal expenses intended to cover up crimes in violation of campaign finance law. So it's the connection between the two.
A lot of things.
Right. So that's why I say, if you're going to find him guilty of anything, you got to find him guilty of two things in order to hit pay dirt.
And he doesn't have to be found guilty in all 34 of two things. He can be found guilty in 1, 2, 5, because at some point, all of them, at least a half a dozen of them, are about the two sides, the two different
I don't
things.
think that'll happen because 11 of the allegations are writing bad checks, writing checks to Cohen, and they're all roughly the same amount of money, and they're all in furtherance of the same thing. So if you find him guilty one of those, you automatically have to find him guilty of 11.
Well, it's then someone in the jury is going to hang it.
Maybe. There are 2 attorneys in the jury. And if you look at the occupations of the jury members, they all look like they're college educated and kind of mainstream New Yorkers.
It looks like a smart jury, and that is not Trump's constituency.
Yeah, what he said.
Yep. Exactly.
So let's assume he is indicted, not indicted, found guilty, and I don't know what the range of possible sentences could be on this, but I'm going to guess it isn't being imprisoned.
Actually, the felonies each carry a 4-year prison term, maximum prison term. But
I'm just guessing that won't happen. I'm guessing it's going to be something less than that.
What's going to happen if there are multiple convictions is that he'll be allowed to serve his sentences concurrently. So he could have 30 convictions, and it'll all get reduced to 1 4-year prison term at max.
But in realpolitik, isn't it going to be some kind of rap over the knuckles and a fine?
No.
No,
I think he's already suffered, the damage. Stormy Daniels was incredibly persistent in her batting away the stuff that that they're now trying to go after Cohen about.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a mandatory imprisonment sentence for this crime. Is that not true?
I think the sentencing guideline is 4 years.
I'm sorry?
I think the sentencing guideline is 4 years.
4 years.
Up to 4 years, right? Up to 4 years.
Maximum. But excuse me, what's the minimum?
There's no minimum. I doubt that there's a minimum.
But he could be
judge.
not guilty.
Well, of course there's a minimum. If
No,
guilty,
the judge has a big leeway in his own courtroom, unless it's a it's a mandated maximum minimum. The judge can do whatever he wants to do.
Well, not whatever he wants to do, because there are about 20 years ago, the feds instituted, well, this is a state matter, but I think it's the same, mandatory minimum sentences and mandatory maximum sentences. So when you see a verdict come down, they talk about the formula that the judge has to use for coming up with the number of months the person has to serve. And this would be like that, I think. I think given the fact that he's a former president, that he's 77 years old, that he's kind of demented, he's not going to get the 4-year maximum, but he's going to be a convicted felon.
I don't know.
Keith, would you chat GPT that?
I've just put the graphic of what Chat GPT says in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt by reading it out.
What'd they say?
They say that most experts give a range of 1 to 4 years if found guilty, running concurrently. But because he's a first-time offender on a non-violent crime, the history of legal stuff suggests that he can also get away with a fine or probation or a non-custodial sentence.
Okay, so there is no minimum jail time for this.
Well, if we can trust ChatGPT, I don't know if we can.
Yep.
Well, you got to ask yourself, if the judge has the opportunity, given all that Trump and his surrogates have said about the judge's daughter and everything else in the case, is Trump going to skate away?
Yeah, but that's a different charge. Breaking the gag order is.
What's Brent showing us now?
It's showing the graphic that I just put in the chat.
Okay, so what I think what I think it comes down to is to what extent can Biden use whatever verdict there is to pull out of the hole that he's in.
Uh, I think a bit. I think it will have some. We've seen in some polls, we've seen that in even in Trump's constituency, right, that if he is found guilty, they would have a different vote.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
if he's
Well-
found guilty, there's going to be a change in all of the marketing so that the
They don't
very
lie.
end it says in big letters, I am not a convict.
No, he should say, I'm not a crook.
Ha ha ha.
Do like this.
yeah,
Ah,
copyright
ah.
Richard Nixon. So I don't buy the idea that that's going to have a fundamental change in the numbers or the election. I think if there's any impact on it, it's already been felt and it's already been averaged in to the numbers.
I think on the edges, it might have enough of an impact. It won't be a big shift, but there's these folks that are still on the edges for whatever reason. And I think stuff like this causes you to like not go one way and maybe go the other way.
Nikki
Yeah, I
Haley's
think you're right.
20%.
Now, wouldn't it be something if Nikki Haley came back in the race, created a coalition on the floor of the convention? Then there was smoke-filled back rooms of party leadership that meant something, came out and blew everyone away with her as a.
Yeah, that will happen on the Democrat convention.
I would say
that would
But
happen.
I don't.
Some
I
other
don't think
dude.
that. The reason I don't think that can happen, Frank, is I think Trump has the bottoms up, caucus power coming from each state that is his people. So he's cut off the Republican head and brain from the body, and the body is under his control.
None of that reality has anything to do with. Wouldn't it be cool if?
yeah, I would
Yeah,
say
no,
I would
I mean,
I would say
please.
just
He
wake
was
up,
right.
Frank. That ain't
Frank, your
happening.
biggest mistake is thinking
Stuff that
Republicans
into
have leaders.
mid-journey, okay?
It certainly would be a great ending to this crazy,
Yeah,
crazy story.
Well, that's
It
kind of what
it would be a Hollywood thing.
And next
man,
up on
oh.
Netflix.
replace Republican with Democratic convention, and that is becoming a possibility.
I think that's why people are still holding out hope and on the fence about Biden, because they still hope, dream, having Frank kind of things going on about what's the guy?
I resemble that.
What's the guy's name in California? The governor? I forget his guy's name.
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom,
Newsom.
like riding in on a white horse and saying, "I'm here to save the party," and everybody, hallelujah, they passed the plate, and that's what people are still hoping for. It's
Okay,
not
so
going to
who-
happen.
Well, Gavin,
Man, none of it's going to
So
happen.
far.
It's going to
what he's going to lose, right?
Who's
somebody.
Biden's going to lose.
No,
What are you? So you're now the only one of the six of us, right? Oh no, Keith. That's two. It's 2 against 4.
What is this, a fight?
No. The going back to Frank is not being too frank. We're going back to Steve's poll.
but Steve and Keith think that Trump is going to win.
It's 2-4.
Ezra Klein and Steve.
No, not take a
He
stand.
doesn't
You
get the
have to
vote.
say what you think.
I just said
Don't
Steve.
blame it on Ezra Klein.
Oh, I do blame it. I think
What
he's
is
this-
I'd like to know
I mean, I'm
Gillmor's
sorry, but
opinion.
how many people
Yeah.
actually read this Ezra Klein guy? I don't know, but it doesn't sound.
He's a podcaster.
I
So
think
are we.
we've got to acknowledge the existence of this third intellectual space where smart people who are anti-Trump and anti-Republican are so underwhelmed by Biden that they're carving out, not as combatants. It's almost like they've given up on the election. They're more true to their ideas and are basically saying, I'm not prepared I'm not prepared to suspend my disbelief any longer. And Klein seems to represent. There's a lot of them, like Bill Maher's like that. When I watched him last night, I think there's a lot of intellectuals that are like that. I think Matt Taibbi is like that. So there's this new intellectual space, call it the third brain of progressive thought, which just isn't prepared to play the game anymore.
So they think
that happens in every election, and by October, everybody is resigned to the fact that it's
this is what
binary
Well,
choice.
it didn't happen to me in the last election. I thought that Biden was going to win. I thought Jim Clyburn changed everything, and I don't have that feeling this time.
Yeah.
because he can't change everything, and you only do that once. And I don't think you need to change everything. I don't know. There's a lot of hand wringing. I remember this 4 years ago, a lot of hand wringing, and the result was what it was. Maybe this is still something going back to the Hillary Clinton thing. Like everybody thought she was going to win, and they thought it was in the bag.
I think you might be right about that. I think that there's a lot of deplorables just underneath the surface that the Democrats are, preparing to ride into battle with, and they're going to get whomped.
Yeah, but is that enough?
Realignment, baby.
But what I think
You need 28.
is people not coming in to vote because they have already given up. And I don't think that's it. I think that Biden will win, and I think that there will be violence in the streets. Thank you very much. Boom.
As you say that safely from London.
Well, honestly,
that's why he's doing it.
Who's not the stupid one here?
There will be no violence in the streets because Biden is the one who would invoke the Insurrection Act, not Trump.
Actually, yes.
That's a very good point.
That's true.
I think we're going to start to hear a lot of talk about, by Democrats, maybe this unfair election thing has got some legs.
better have 16 year, eight or 16 years worth of legs.
I can't remember an election where that didn't happen. I mean, every election, there's enough borderline places like Florida comes to mind, that there's always a claim that there's something unfair. The difference with Trump is, despite losing that argument, he tried to stop the election being, closed. So I don't think it's feasible that there won't be claims that things are unfair no matter who wins.
I think the reason that Trump won in the first place was because nobody was willing to accept the responsibility for the deplorable comments.
Yeah.
I think that changed everything.
Well, I think the Russia interference stuff was a really bad sideshow that also was stupid.
They had, Bill Barr, just came in and knocked that off of its perch. So,
but I also think this legal case thing against Trump is the modern equivalent of the Russia interference. It's not the issue, but it's being made the issue, and it isn't a winning issue.
I disagree.
I know you disagree.
I think at the end of the day, the electorate will say in its majority, we've seen this movie before.
The winning issue is women's rights, guns, and the economy.
Not guns.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think even guns. I think most Americans now.
Lydia Atwater would disagree with you, and effectively so, for the last 30 years. All those issues,
no one's tried.
All those issues were drawn by the Republicans and have kept them in close to power with an unplayable hand for many, many years. So I would not discount the power of the opposite perspective from the liberal left.
Well, to me, it's a crime to not use pictures of schools where kids are gunned down as a campaign point because you're scared of the gun lobby.
We've been
Well,
doing that for a long time, though. Well, I would love to see the Democrats make some commercials, just like a compilation of all these Republicans saying that it's already rigged, that they won't commit, and not a single vote has been cast yet, but they are all saying there's not one of them saying we expect this to be I'm going to go with whatever happens because it's going to be fair. Every one of these suckers is saying they are either they're hemming and hawing or they're not agreeing unless it goes one way. That would be a great commercial because at least that would show something that says one side is basically saying they are never going to go with it unless their side wins versus the other side that's not saying that at all. And I think that would be pretty powerful. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but I'm just so sick and tired of these guys coming on these like meet the presses and 5 times they get asked, will you say you'll respect the results of the election? And they never say it.
Yeah.
I agree. That was the help me, Rhonda.
What?
I don't know what you're talking
You're
about.
going to get me singing again if you say
Yeah,
that.
it's-
Help me,
Rhonda
Rhonda.
Rona McDaniel and
Oh, Rona.
Todd finding some things in his pants was the biggest possible shift in this election. The question is when do the Democrats pull the trigger of basically saying to themselves, if we don't figure out how to shame the American people into enough votes to keep this from happening, we're screwed. And I think we're getting there now. I think the Ezra Klein argument or the Bill Maher bit are important signals. 3 months from now, it's going to be over if the Democrats don't figure out how to deal with this.
What does Ezra Pound have to say? I know him. I don't.
He was a notorious anti-Semite, I believe.
Oh, is he? Well, then we don't want to hear from him.
Ezra Pound? Oh, you mean, yeah, Ezra Pound in the 1920s.
Yeah. Sorry for infiltrating your turf, Dennis.
Oh, you mean,
The
did you really
1920s.
mean Ezra Klein?
Ezra Pound.
I didn't
Wait a
say Ezra Pound. Somebody
I
else.
know you did.
I
Brent
said-
did.
Wow,
I
little
decided
little
to-
levity, folks. We need some levity. Isn't it time for the show to
speaking
end?
of
By
levity, listen, Keith, can you find out which Republicans are saying that?
Give me the
Thanks.
exact question in the chat and I'll copy and paste it in.
Which
well,
which Republicans in Congress are saying now that the 2024 election is rigged?
You're gonna get a big long list on that one.
I wonder what ChatGPT will come. Ooh, hello.
Well, you got your Tim Scotts, you got your Marjorie Taylor Greens, you got all these.
No,
leading
everyone,
intellects.
everyone that was there at the.
My favorite is Doug Burgum.
North Dakota.
Yeah. I was wondering why he was in the debates. Now I know the answer.
Okay,
Well,
so it gave me Mike Johnson.
Oh, nothing like
A
the Speaker of the House.
significant
Mike Johnson,
portion,
yeah, he's a good one.
two-thirds of Republican voters still think it. It only gave me Mike Johnson as a name.
Well, 2/3 of Republicans, which is 1/3 of the electorate, isn't it?
Okay, last thoughts around the table, starting with Dennis.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to the trial ending. I think we're gonna see a major change in American politics as a result of the trial. It won't be automatic, won't be immediate. But Trump is dying the death of 1,000 paper cuts. I'm happy.
Brent.
First off, the latest episode of Doctor Who is great. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Frank, but
I
I
saw
really
it.
enjoyed that.
Is that the one about the Beatles where the Beatles are not there and don't have any
No,
songs? They
that
can-
was the second episode, not the third.
Oh,
I haven't
And
watched any of them yet.
oh well, come on, don't you get your your I don't know, something revoked, your statehood or anything?
They are decidedly different. The new
Yes.
ones, they're really good and creative, but they're very different.
And last night, one of the funniest Saturday Night Live weekend updates.
oh
That
no!
was hilarious.
Yes.
That was so funny.
Which one?
Weekend up.
It was the season finale for
Oh,
the weekend update.
they traded the
They
jokes.
did the joke, and it was
Oh,
awesome.
that is good. That's why you actually hear what they do in the writers' room.
Oh, okay. It was great, whatever they do.
I got thrown out of the writers' room once. of the Saturday Night Live writers' room
Ooh.
by a screaming at me Lorne Michaels,
Oh,
Why?
because I walked in with the camera crew without asking him.
Oh, yeah.
And then after about 15 minutes of talking to him, he let me bring the camera crew back.
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
Well, if you have to choose between being yelled at by Ted Turner and Lauren Michaels, I think you got the better of the deal.
I was yelled at by Ted Turner also, Steve, so
Frank has been yelled at by some of the best.
I certainly have.
That's back when you were head of entertainment programming and Ted Turner.
Uh-huh.
There is no entertainment programming.
No, entertainment. What are we doing this shit? Frank, why are you reporting the ratings?
Good question. Okay, so who else? Tina.
Keith.
I'll get
Let's
Keith.
get to Keith.
Keith's gonna have the last word, whether
No.
it's the last word or not.
Mine was not the last word.
Correct. Tina.
Okay.
I'll get to Keith. Don't worry.
Wow, that look, I would worry actually.
Oh my God, that's a look only a cat can
Yeah,
give you.
It's been years.
I think I'd go to Keith actually.
Go for it, Tina. Go for it.
Talk about him
You're not gonna.
now.
Oh,
This is getting slightly uncomfortable.
Okay.
Tina, I'm fine with going last.
I will. I'll
Why
go.
don't you talk about our friend?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for that.
So this week, actually, it was a week ago that we lost our friend David Sanborn. And it's been a mighty hard week, just dealing with the feelings of the loss. So, I think I met David with Steve, but we met soon after I met you. It wasn't like a long time after I met Steve that I met David. So it's been a long time that we've all been friends, and we didn't get to see him often, like maybe a friend down the street or around the corner. Dave was always traveling, or most of the year he would travel, but we would religiously go out and see him perform when he was nearby. Steve and I were trying to remember how many times we've seen him. It was like a ridiculous amount of times. And we kept coming up with another and another. But Dave was an incredible talent. Everyone knows that. But the thing, the thing that I'm gonna miss is just the guy that we knew. He was an incredibly something I think probably a lot of people don't know is that he was really, really funny. He just had a great wit. He had a great electric smile. He had an interesting history. He struggled a lot in his life. He he really, what is it, like, he rose to the occasion of life, you know. He conquered a lot of uh problems, demons. You know, he certainly had issues with substance abuse. But the Dave that I knew, I didn't know him way back then. Um, I knew a sweet guy who was constantly worried about, you know, the reeds in his saxophone, and how was he going to get his special reed, and it was like a running joke.
Not to him.
Not to him. It was, you know, if he didn't have that one, he was going to blow the whole performance. Um, he was, he believed in practice. He believed in, you know, he believed in love too. And that's something that I really think about when I think about Dave. As a matter of fact, I think it was maybe in between wife number 3 and 4, he said to us, please, whatever I say, if I say I'm going to get married again, talk me out of it. Don't let me do it. You got to promise me.
Well, he won the lottery with his widow.
But his widow, Alice, was just a godsend, I think, for him and for her. They're both musicians, and they really met in that space, and carved out this beautiful love affair and collaboration. And it was really lovely to watch that, especially knowing, you know, some of the past relationships that were not as rich and fulfilling. We're sad to know that he was in a lot of pain at the end, and I'm just gonna, I so miss, you know, looking forward to that next time. There was always going to be another, and you know, I think everybody goes through this when they lose someone they love, is that, you know, you think there's going to be a next time.
Yeah.
We had these, you know, like the times in between our visits were sometimes lengthy, but I mean, every year I think we'd probably see him once or twice, maybe more. And you know, there's that rhythm in life where, yeah, when's the next time when's Dave rolling into town? When are we gonna be, you know, hanging out and, you know, finding out what's gone on in the past few months and how he's doing. We did know that he was ill for the past number of years, but it seemed like he was okay, and in the end not. So anyway, Dave, we're gonna miss you a lot. This one really is getting to me, and I don't know. I had a kind of different relationship with him. It was at times a little semi-professional. I handled his website out of just a labor of love for a lot of years, and I, you know, did other things. Actually, last thing I did for Dave, he called me up. This kind of funny story. Told you this was going to be long. He called up before he came to Oakland to play at Yoshi's there. And he said, Tina, I got a problem. Can you help me with this? I said, I don't know. What is it? He said, well, you know, since COVID, a lot of, you know, he's a very particular eater. Okay. Like, he has to have certain things, period. And everyone around him knows that. So he says, well, since COVID, a lot of the places that we relied on in Oakland, around where we're going to be, have closed down, and we have got nowhere to go. Literally, like my road manager cannot find the food that I need. Can you help me find somebody who will roast a chicken? I need the an organic roasted chicken for the plane. I always have that, and the vegetables and all this stuff. I said, yeah, I can probably find somebody, but I think it's going to take me longer to find somebody to do this than to actually just make it for you myself. He's like, no, 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 I don't want you to do that. I don't want to. No, it's not why I'm asking you. I need you to find me somebody to do this. I said, Dave, it's going to take me longer to do that than to put the chicken in the oven and make it for you and bring it to you. He said, really? You think you can do that? I'm like, yeah. And then he went on and on about how it's got to be plain. It's got to, you can't put anything on it. Dave, I know. So, yeah, the last time I saw him, I brought him all this food in Tupperware for the plane. And you know, I to me, it was just kind of a funny thing to do for him. But yeah, he said that he called me up to say, well, as far as the chicken goes, the problem is that Alice and I opened it up in the hotel room before the plane, you know, the evening before, and to have a bite and see what it was like. He said it was so good that we finished it all. So we only had a little bit for the plane. So that was a good review from Dave. But I was happy to do it. So it was my cooking experience for Dave Sanborn. But anyway, gonna miss the heck out of him. Gonna miss this live music, talking with him, catching up. It's just it's a really, really hard loss for Steve and I.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Here.
I remember when I was in college in the 80s, there were 3 or 4 saxophonists that were like just killing it. It was this guy named George Howard. There's this guy named Najee. And there was, I'll throw Dave Koz in, but not to a little lesser extent. And there was David Sanborn. And we call those guys, they were jazz for us at that time. And they were like the anti Kenny G's. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was so smooth and so melodic with his playing. Even college guys like, yeah, we would like get our dates. Yeah, we're gonna throw a little Sanborn on for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. It was
Yeah.
the same thing. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever saw him play live, I guess it was it's not ironic story and it's not funny, but it's the first time that I was ever in the same room with Steve before I met Steve. I
And you didn't run away right immediately?
I didn't need him. I didn't need him.
I was an afterthought.
Frank knows how close I was to running away from Steve, but
Dave was the consummate chick magnet.
I
But-
can see that.
in that particular show, it was I want to say like maybe 81 or 82. I was spending the summers in New York. My family had a store there, and a girlfriend of mine who came to visit, and she and I, so like you, Brent, she and I were the kind of kooky girls in high school and then in college.
I didn't say I was a kooky girl now.
Clubs. We went to, we were the underage girls sneaking into jazz clubs because, we were cool that way. And, in, downtown Detroit. Anyway, so she and I were looking in the Village Voice to figure out what to do. And we're like, oh my gosh, David Sanborn's playing like blocks away from here at 82 Grand. Let's go. And so we found out what time the show started, and this little tiny place, it's not a big venue at all, really small, intimate. And so we thought, oh, this is going to be perfect. So we go there. I don't know. The show's supposed to start like 8 o'clock, and we're there. Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. We're there. We're waiting. We're waiting a half an hour. We're waiting an hour. We're waiting an hour and a half. We're like, this is getting a little ridiculous. We're drinking more, and and I don't know how late it was. It wasn't quite Grace Jones late, but it was time David Sanborn late. What I've come to find is, Mr. Gillmor, I don't know which way you're seeing him on the screen, was with them, and they were doing things where they didn't quite care about the time or what's going on or who had to be on
I'm
stage.
shocked.
Right? Right, Frank? Anyway, that was it was a great show, and but it took a while to get there. And that was the first time that Steve and I were in the room together before we met.
There was a track that Marcus Miller wrote called Maputo.
Beautiful.
And the last time we saw Dave, there was we came for the first set, and then there was a break, and we spent time with Dave, and then we decided to stick around for the next set. And I've heard this song played with Marcus, without Marcus. I mean, just it's one of those right in the pocket of R&B and funk and everything but jazz, but it's quintessentially jazz, which Dave never really owned as being where he was from, but for some reason we'd already heard it once. It just the band that he was playing with was sort of a synthesis of all the different styles and players that he'd worked with, and at the end of the song, there was just a moment of silence where it was just perfect. And somebody who had the ability to do that, not every time, but any time, is such a rare thing. And he had that in spades. So I'm desolate about his disappearance from making my life so much brighter in so many subtle ways.
I'm really sorry for your loss, Steve. I know
we're all sorry. I mean, all these people are, look at Stevie Wonder. I mean, Jesus, being in a room at a Salesforce conference, watching Stevie Wonder improvise in a conversation with Mark Benioff because somebody hadn't shown up yet. I think Bill Clinton was on the board.
That was Clinton, yeah.
Yeah. And Stevie Wonder was doing all of his I'll, where's the men's room? I'll show you. that stuff. Yeah. They live in a world where it's like walking among the gods.
Yeah.
So I promised Keith the last word.
Well, I think you've just demonstrated something interesting, which is that humanity has a power law curve when it comes to talent. At the very top of the curve, there are some super people that the rest of us look at in awe. And lower down the curve, there's still really good people, and until you get to ordinary people like me. And life is about aspiring to try to become good enough for others to look at you and care about you. It's really about love, and love is driven by all kinds of things. I asked ChatGPT, by the way, for the top 10 commemorative links, and Zoom has a new feature called Notes. If you go and look in the notes, the new ChatGPT now gives references and links as well as content. And there's 10 links there to what it considers to be 10 of the best commemorative writings about him. And I think we're, just as with humans, there's a power law in technology as well. Some things are there to create awe because they add something that we didn't imagine we could have. I'm on the side of thinking this modern phase of AI is giving us that. And we're lucky, in a way, to be alive to witness it. That's my last words.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and those who can't, we love you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you guys. I'm gonna go. Thank you.
Thanks
See
for
you
listening.
Hey, Frank.
Nick's game is on.
I'll be back next Sunday.
You're making me want to watch Doctor Who now.
Have a good week.
Oh, you
Thank
got
you.
if you watch this one in particular, it's Steve Moffat wrote it. Stephen Moffat wrote it. So it's really good.
It's good.
See you
See you
guys.
later, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
So long.
We didn't mention the new iPad, actually, I just realized.
No, I haven't got it yet.
How is yours?
Well, you can't tell on this, but it's really good.
Yeah.
I can't make it focus on it because of my face, but
Mm.
it's light. The best thing is it's light. I actually use it for reading, and the other one is too heavy. So you put it down after a while. This one you can keep holding it.
Mm.
So it's good. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys.
Yeah.
Keith, can you save this off in a form that will survive?
I think it gets saved anyway.
I know, but I don't know how to find it.
Oh, you can't see it.
I can see it because it popped up on the screen.
It's okay.
I just
Yeah, there's a new icon at the bottom of your Zoom called Notes. It's to the left of record on mine. I don't know where it is on yours.
yeah, I don't see it.
It's actually not there.
Well, maybe it's in more. Yeah, it is in more.
Oh yeah, it is in more. I think you can actually.
They stay. Notes don't go away.
Yeah.
Unlike chat, which goes away, notes don't. But the other thing I can do is text it to you here.
No, that's all right. I just clicked on it and it went away, and then I clicked on the notes and it's back.
I had to hold the dog during the show because he's so afraid of thunder.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Have you stopped recording?
I did stop. I stopped the cloud recording. I don't know if it actually lets me stop the other.
Oh, is it still streaming or not?